Hello, and welcome to episode 12 of Modern Media Review. I'm Robin Gibson.
And I'm Sean Goligly.
And we're going to do some plugging at the beginning of the episode.
Get a plug in, Robin.
Yeah, so just to say, if you like what you're listening to, and we hope you do, then please visit our YouTube channel and subscribe on YouTube. And you can also listen and subscribe on iTunes and Spotify.
Twitter?
At review_modern, and can visit us on Facebook and look at the website, which is modernmediareview.com, where all the podcasts are, as well as some writing and Rowan Talent's brilliant illustrations.
Absolutely.
One of which accompanies this. This being a review of MasterChef.
Which is the
237th series of MasterChef, I believe it is.
I thought it was more.
I think it could be more. I'm not quite sure. I was too scared to check, really, because I've been watching it for several lifetimes.
Well, I know it's a particular favourite of yours, Robin, and I was half expecting to see Lloyd Grossman on it.
Yeah, you're going back a bit there, mate. That's like about 100 years ago Lloyd Grossman was on it. The whole format changed, but it's still extremely long-winded.
You know, I must admit, I'm going to put this up front that I'm not a fan. But it's one of the first sort of talent shows, really, isn't it?
First talent shows ever.
Well, not ever.
Of the year, of the season.
Well, we've got now The Voice and X Factor and stuff like that. But the point is that you don't actually win money for this or get a 25-year serfdom contract with Simon Cowell.
You don't win a thing, no. You just get kudos as a chef.
But that's not strictly true, is it?
Well, yeah, it is strictly true.
Well, haven't the last few winners ended up working in top restaurants?
Nearly all the winners do.
Yeah.
I mean, they all get they either own restaurants or they've become touring, book writing, chefy type people.
And also, I've got to put this out.
Better than serfdom.
I've got to put this out. This is middle-class Paisley stuff, isn't it, really? Your foodie stuff.
It's not, well, you see, I'm not really a foodie. I like cooking, but what I like about this programme is that it's a genuine talent thing where it's people who start off as raw amateurs who end up being very, very good chefs.
Okay, I have an issue with this, as Gregg would say. Is that I don't think it's you get through on talent necessarily.
Well, you do. You do.
Okay.
I mean, there's the occasional misjudgment. I mean, I guess they've got the work cut out because the whole thing goes on so long. It always reminds me of the Champions League. By the time it gets to the knockout stages, you can't remember who was in the group stages. And we're halfway through the series, but we're still in the first round. They've done 3 of the first 4 weeks of the first round.
Yeah.
And we're on to the 4th one.
Yeah, it's gruelling, actually.
Well, there's been 56 people through the mill so far. And by the time you get to the final 16, you've long forgotten the people who messed up their microherbs in round 1.
Or their samphire.
It's still a very long-winded... It's a bit like that episode of The Simpsons where the TV announcer says the road to the Super Bowl is long and pointless. The road to the MasterChef knockout round is long and pointless.
Well, it was one of my favourite things when Homer came off the booze and started watching baseball without Duff beer and suddenly realised it was totally boring. And for me, MasterChef is a bit like that.
Well, maybe you should be watching it with some Duff beer. I mean, although I like MasterChef, I think we need to talk about the hosts because Gregg Wallace and
John
Torode are the hosts of the amateur MasterChef. They're divisive figures. They've honed I don't know if it's an art, but they've honed their practice of kind of gurning to camera and doing long smiles at the contestants as they explain their dishes.
Slightly creepy, I always think.
Well, they look frozen. Have you ever watched that comedy series Police Squad with Leslie Nielsen?
Yeah.
At the end, the copper stands still while the rest of the action moves around him. That's what Gregg Wallace is beginning to look like. He stands there with his head cocked to one side and a ludicrous inane grin on it for ages while other things are moving around. I don't think they're cult figures. I don't think people like them. I think they think Gregg Wallace is a buffoon.
Well, I don't think they like each other.
Do they not?
No, well, apparently they don't go out together. They don't sort of like go for meals together or anything like that.
Well, if we'd been doing this podcast for 16 years or whatever, do you think we'd be going out for meals together? I very much doubt it. The show's not popular because of these two guys. It's popular because the contestants... I mean, Gregg himself has got into hot water more than once, particularly with... Do you know that famous tweet about the guy trying to raise money for cancer?
No.
Well, Gregg's a bit touchy about having 2 G's in his name. This guy tweeted him, this is years ago, saying, at Gregg A. Wallace, "Hi Gregg, I'm cycling for Macmillan Cancer Support. Any chance of a retweet?" But he only put 1 G on Gregg.
Ooh.
And Wallace just sent a tweet back saying Gregg with 2 G's. The other guy, Nick Holder, who asked...
Touchy-feely.
Yeah, well, just touchy, because Nick Holder came back with a nice one to finish it off and just said, at Gregg A. Wallace, "No worries, mate, it's only people with cancer. You worry about your extra G, master twat." I think, a lot of people think he is a bit of a master twat. I mean, I've got mixed feelings about them because they hold the show together, but their kind of behaviour is absolutely absurd sometimes. They're sort of raving about the food, their stupid face pulling, and Gregg's, maybe they've been doing it too long, but Gregg Wallace's comments have become a bit bizarre. I mean, in the first episode of this series, there was a woman from Mauritius, or of Mauritian heritage, called Davina. Gregg, now obviously he's going to ask her if she cooks food from Mauritius, but it was the way he asked it. He said, do you cook the food from Mauritius? As if there was a load of food from Mauritius that had been lying around in the kitchen and had been waiting for someone to come and cook it. I think he's been doing it so long, maybe he's not bored, but he's just forgotten how to
go through the motions.
Well, he'd forgotten how to do it properly.
It's very weird. I mean, I must admit that I dip in and out of it. But one of the things I quite liked was they have the market challenge thing, which reminds me a bit of Supermarket Sweep, where you just sort of like go in and grab a load of stuff and sort of like make stuff out of it. But they gave them one of the ones I was watching last week was
wait a minute, no one had to make anything in Supermarket Sweep.
No, you just grabbed stuff.
Well,
it was a bit like that. I mean, they had loads and loads of fish and haddock and all sorts of things, so it sounded brilliant. And
fish and haddock, yeah.
Fish and haddock, yeah. But they also had turkey, which I thought immediately turkey Twizzlers. That's got to be a winner, isn't it?
I don't think no one knows how they're made. You can't make them in a domestic kitchen, mate.
You need a factory.
You need a factory, yeah. Yeah, but the market challenge is just a kind of the first bit of the first episode. It's a long way to go after that, mate. Yeah. It's not like, anyone's marching around then saying, right, we've only got 5 minutes left.
Yeah, but also, I don't like this format where it's supposed to be a heat and then a quarter-final, because it seems that anyone can get through. It's like, if you get to the quarter-finals of the FA Cup or the Champions League, you don't go, oh, Real Madrid and Man United, they both played well, Okay, Man United got knocked out, but let's let them through. Which they seem to do on MasterChef.
I mean, as he says, I've got issues, and that's my biggest one, which is the fact that they seem to be able to identify favourites, their own favourites, and then these people tend to get a let-off at the expense of other contestants. Like, started in episode 1, this guy Tim, who's classic MasterChef type, he says he's an art curator, whatever that is, art gallery curator, and he also claims to never have eaten a ready meal.
I like that.
I don't like that. I don't
I
believe
like that.
it.
No, I like
it's
that.
It's a ludicrous thing to say, even if he is a young.
I mean, I don't watch TV.
Lad. So he actually, not only did he get through the first round at the expense of someone better, having served up, literally, mate, fish and beans, and then something that was so unappetising that Wallace described it as highly unusual flavour and texture, like a diluted yoghurt. And then
sounds tasty.
And then Torode said, "I've never tasted it before, not to my liking." This guy got through because they liked something about him from the first round, And then, so obviously he got to the quarter-final, and then he got let off again. He cooked grouse that was chewy and insipid. That was what they said. You don't want that, do you? Oh, no, it was only the skin. I don't know about the rest of the grouse. I don't eat grouse, obviously. Being vegetarian, I couldn't get on to MasterChef, really. Because
you could do your cauliflower steak, mate.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's a lot of cauliflower steaks this year so far, but they did have a veggie contestant early in the second week in this series, and the bloke, they run out of ideas. I mean, he made a vegetarian Scotch egg which went down quite well, but his vegan cheese was a disaster because it was made with raw garlic. Let's face it, you don't want raw garlic in your cheese, do you? No. But Tim then did his insipid chewy grouse skin, which William Sitwell, who was the celebrity foodie person...
Wasn't he the guy that said vegans should be killed?
Yes. So he set a brief for the quarter-finalists in week 1 and said he wanted them to cook game, possibly vegans that had been shot in the field somewhere while they were out hunt sabbing. So, yes, Tim cooked this grouse, which was not edible, Sitwell said. He also said his mash wasn't thick enough and his sauce was too salty.
He's got to go through. He's got to go through for that.
Well, he did get through.
Yeah.
It's shocking. There was another guy who cooked his game, and I don't know what game tastes like, but he cooked his
gamey.
Gamey, yeah. Well, someone did it gamier, and he kicked the other guy out because he had too many things going on his plate. Well, let me tell you, Tim had a lot of things going on his plate, and they were all chewy, insipid, and too salty.
Well, you never know. He might have pictures of Gregg with a double G in compromising positions.
He might. You never know. You never know what anyone's got on Gregg Wallace. He's a bit mysterious, Wallace.
Another thing was, I found some of these contestants quite weird. There was a girl called Yelena.
Ah, yeah.
And... she said it's a classic intro. I mean, how you think you're going to get through off the back of this is beyond me. But she said the key to getting through in MasterChef is presentation of food, not taste.
Well, she's gone a bit too far in one direction there, because they are very keen on presentation, but on the other hand, they want it to taste nice as well. And she didn't even get to the quarter-final, did she?
And also, she was a bit weird because...
she was an Instagrammer.
Well, she was a cat woman as well.
How do you mean?
Hundreds of cats and wrote racy novels a la Jilly Cooper.
No, that was someone else.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Samantha, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No, she was an Instagrammer who liked to take pictures of her food in the restaurant.
Well, maybe...
And not eat it.
Well, what
which
she
is
should
probably why she thought it didn't matter what it tasted
Well, what
like.
she should have done was just stayed at home, sent in photos of what she'd cooked, and they could have judged it on that.
Well, they judged it on what she cooked, and she got booted out. And she was in quite an easy week. There was another guy in that week called Raf, who was Albanian, who cooked something that they described as, he said, was a traditional Albanian recipe, and they described as yogurt on a biscuit. So you have these people, I mean, the standard's a lot higher now in the first round than it used to be.
Okay.
But you still have these people who do kind of weird stuff.
So you wouldn't get away with sausage and mash?
You used to come on if you cooked a good hearty sausage and mash, they'd put you through into the next round. But now they're coming out with microherbs and samphire in round one.
Blimey.
You know what microherbs are.
Yeah, of course I do.
It's very small herbs. So Tim, get back to this let-off thing, Sean, right? Straight afterwards in week 2, there was another let-off merchant. It was a girl called Delia who's a copper, and you could see in the first round she was becoming a favourite. They were really liking her stuff, kind of raving about it, and I thought, she's going to get a let-off at some point. Come to quarter-final, right? Grace Dent, she turns up, she's the celeb. She wanted the contestants to make vegetable the star of their dish. So this Delia the copper, she cooked some carrots, which were flat. Mind you, I don't know, should carrots be high or tall? I don't know. They said they were a bit flat. She made some carrot puree.
What?
And some tempura.
What's tempura?
It's vegetable fried in
batter.
Deep batter, yeah.
Okay.
And they sort of slagged it off and said it wasn't the best use of a carrot.
But through?
No, they didn't just say through, because they go in deliberate, obviously. They said it wasn't as triumphant as her other dishes.
Oh, I like that.
So, you think she's going home.
So triumphant being not as bad as the other dishes?
No, the other dishes were triumphant, but this one is, she just messed it up, right? So there's 6 of them in the quarter-final. Only 3 are meant to go through. They let 5 through because they were 4 better than her. But they just upped it to 5. I've never seen that happen before. And in fact, the only one they didn't put through was someone who didn't actually really cook vegetables. He just served up a massive lobster on top of a salad, which didn't meet the brief at all.
Perhaps what they need is a version of VAR from the football.
I think that's it. Where is VAR when you need it in MasterChef?
So you get back and you say, look at Delia, she's done these flat carrots. Let's refer to VAR, and she gets a red card. Off she goes.
Well, that's the thing. That we've had 2 let-offs already, and this often goes on through the series, and people keep kind of not getting a bye, but they keep kind of putting people through, and you think, no, that's just their favourite. As for the flat carrots, I've noticed something in this series. There's usually a trend going on. A few years ago it was edible flowers.
Okay.
We've got someone who's done some edible flowers in this season.
That was so last year, though.
And another thing that used to be was they were demanding of height. Talking about the flat carrots, height in a dish. But a lot of people have just been serving up flat stuff.
Yeah,
It's physical equivalent of omelette and chips, in terms of its height. And they don't seem to mind anymore about height. There's a sculptor in there who's been putting height in, a guy called Paul, but he's the only one who's bothered about the height. He put tempura under his cod, which they thought was why. They were going, why is he putting tempura under his cod? And he said, well, it's artistry in it. I want to give it a bit. He said, I felt sorry for him. He said, I want to give it a bit of height, and they just didn't care.
So he hit a buzzword, and they didn't bite.
A couple of series ago, they'd have been saying, we love the height in this dish. But now, this year, microherbs, cauliflower steaks, which are ultimate emperor's new clothes dish,
massively. I mean, 17.95 at your local Young's pub for a cauliflower.
They pulled that, as we mentioned before. They did pull that from the menu.
They did, yeah.
Cauliflower's all
still flying on MasterChef, though.
Cauliflower and beetroot all over the place this year. Also, last week's quarter-final, which was done by Jay Rayner. So he's the critic who's come along to do the brief. Now, what I've noticed here, not only with some critics, particularly Jay, but also with the previous winners they bring back to judge in the first round, they sit there and say things quite often like, yeah, and I could eat all of this one. And the fact is, a lot of them look like they have been eating all of it. Some of them have put on so much weight since they won this thing.
What, you're fat shaming now?
Not really. I'm just amazed by the amount of weight that some of them have put on. The previous winners all seem to have been living the good life.
Ballooned. to 33 stone.
Yeah, well, they're probably not actually working in the kitchens they now own, Last week's quarter-final, which was the last full week we managed to see, Rayner set this brief to cook pasta with grace.
Which is a little bit...
style, but how does... I can see style, but pasta with grace?
Well, it's just nonsense, isn't it? I mean, it's... MasterChef it's food pornography, really. People just sitting at home, looking at things that you'll never ever eat, and sort of like getting quite excited about it, really.
What, lobster and shrimp ravioli with the lobster bisque and nasturtiums?
Does it for me.
You wouldn't eat that.
Does it for me.
Anyway, the guy that made that is pasta split anyway, but he got through.
Well, as well as that, I mean, I don't really blame Gregg and John for having favourites, because there was a guy, Marcus, on one of the shows that I was watching.
He didn't make it.
Well, I'm not surprised. He was a management consultant. I mean, that's a red card straight away for me.
They don't mind what you do. As I said, they've got coppers, they've got curators, they've got sculptors, they've got people who don't even have a job.
Well, he made this mushroom sauce, which I can't remember if it was Gregg who said it tasted of mushrooms, which I thought was incredible insight. And
they don't have that much insight, to be honest. They scarf up the food. And Gregg puts it in his mouth in a quite kind of annoying way. Sort of sucks it off the fork. Have you noticed that?
No, I haven't.
It's not appetising.
Unlike a friend of mine who eats his dinner like a dog that hasn't eaten for about 3 weeks. Head in the bowl,
Anyway, this pasta round, right, it suddenly became clear that the key to this was to make the pasta with an egg yolk inside.
Oh, you got to do that.
Yeah, the two people who did that just sailed through. The big guy who'd been making kind of Caribbean flavoured chicken and chips. But tasty chicken, no, and he got through. He made pasta with meatballs, but he got through even though he forgot
his sauce, didn't he?
Forgot to serve it up, yeah. They said to him, "You've cooked a load of sauce there, where is it?" I said, I'm gutted to lift that sauce. Pre-gig nerves get the better of them. Again, right, I think they liked him because they changed it from 3 to 4 and put 4 through.
Yeah, this is stitch up, this is.
It seems very... I mean, that's another of my issues. Is this 6 into 3 going into 6 into 4, 5 or whatever they feel like? Well, they're Robin, losing their cutting edge of eliminating contestants.
Robin, one of my issues is we can't bet on it.
Well, you can't because it's not live.
Yeah, well, it should be live. It should be like Strictly, and it should be like X Factor and all the rest of them that you can bet on it. Otherwise, what's the point? Although it would bother me if Gregg and John Torode were letting people through just on whims.
Well, there's another reason they're sort of letting people through, which... Have you heard about the rendang controversy last year?
No, I haven't, no.
Well, this is another of my issues, because they're not as smart as they make out, right?
Okay.
A guy from Malaysia made a dish called rendang that's made with chicken, right? When it came up for tasting, Gregg and John said the skin of the chicken wasn't crispy and said they liked the flavour, but it's inedible. Because they often say this when they don't like something that's obviously not inedible. You would eat it. The skin wasn't crispy, and it turned out that rendang
shouldn't be crispy.
And in fact, the Malaysian Prime Minister said that maybe the judges were getting confused with KFC. So they're not as smart as they make out. What happened? You didn't see today's.
No, I didn't.
You didn't see yesterday. Sorry, which was the first one of the final of the 4. The first one of the last round of the first round.
Okay.
I'll say that again.
I'm sort of it.
The first episode of the last week of the 4 weeks of the first round, and there was a woman on it called Amal who's heritage. Everyone's got heritage in this show now.
I like that.
I mean, if you went on it, you could say, "I'm making you mashed potatoes because of my Irish heritage," They've always got to say, "I've got this heritage and that." Anyway, her heritage was quite interesting. It's Somalian.
Okay.
And this was brilliant, right? They said, "What are you making?" And she said, "I'm making this dish, and it's got a sauce from Yemen, and it's called zhoug."
Whoa.
And in the round before that, she'd made
How'd you spell that?
Well, this is the point. I'm not sure how you spell it. In their first round, she made bass sauce,
what?
Right? That's Somalian. And they went, "This is a revelation." Because they were too scared to say, "Oh, it does not."
It's inedible.
Inedible, They don't. It should be more. It should be thicker or something, And then brilliantly, right? Because the second round, they have the 3 previous winners to judge it. And it's obviously spelt, she said, "Well, I'm making zhoug." Sounds like ZOOK, doesn't it, right?
Yeah.
But the judges all read it off the menu, and one said, "I've not had zhoug before." Someone else said, "This zahood is super duper." And John Torode said, "She made zhoug." So none of them have got a clue what it is. If you go in with something like that, you're guaranteed to sail through because they're too scared to take the piss out of it.
Which again is Emperor's New Clothes. It's like
it looked good though.
Well, if you go into some sort of like clothes shop and you say, "I'm looking for my favourite label," But these people that show you these trousers that cost about 500 quid and they're made of paper.
Yeah.
You know?
Do they? What shops do you go into?
Well, I went into
paper trousers.
Well, I got a Christmas voucher for Selfridges, and I hadn't been to Selfridges for about 20 years. And it seems now that it's only available for Russian oligarchs and various sort of like people with too much money, because everything was about 500 quid. And I just got fed up looking around. I said, I'm looking for a pair of Amugari trousers. And they said, oh, yes, I think the Amugari is over there, sir. Which is a mug you are.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
You know?
How much was the voucher for?
It was about 20 quid, so I wasn't getting anything anyway.
Selfridges. Anyway, we've got off the track here. Another thing about these judges, talking about the judges with their zhoug or zhoug, they've got no idea what it is. There's a guy called Stephen Wallace who won it years and years ago who's been on judging this series. You put the food in front of him and he looks surprised to see it. It's very odd, as if he's never seen any food before.
Where did he think he was going when they said, can you come and judge on MasterChef? And he goes, oh, blimey, food.
The size of the guy, you know, is...
Has he ballooned as well?
Yeah, you think he'd know his food when it turned up in front of him. But it's good to see the previous winners. Like, you wouldn't know them, but I love the guy who often gets quoted as a previous winner at Namawin, who made one of my favourite ever dishes, which was a coconut swan and a sea of blue custard. That's MasterChef.
I like that. That sounds like something a child would cook.
We've also had a good injury in this series.
Oh.
Zach, the circus director. See, they take all types. He cut his pinky off slicing an apple.
No.
Yeah. He had to go home and he said he was in emotional pain.
Yeah, not...
Peeling an apple. And obviously you're not allowed to go on because it's health and safety.
Gone mad.
Yeah. And you have to get sent to hospital and then they have to say later on, he was all right, Zach.
Well, we didn't vote Brexit for that, did we?
No, we didn't vote Brexit. Anyway, on the other hand, not literally, you can make a massive mistake and still get plaudits. Sarah, in week 2, cooked a souffle, which one of the judges said...
Didn't go flat, did it?
Well, it was a disaster, right? A complete disaster. But they loved the taste of it, so they just waved her through.
This is all too random.
Yeah. Grace Dent said, I love your disaster souffle. The other guy cooked lava bread ravioli, you know, that's seaweed from Wales, isn't it? And they just said it tasted like cooked spinach. They quite liked it, so it didn't even taste like what it was meant to taste like. This is a problem where you can mess something up and still fly through to the next round.
Why can't we vote on it? We should be able to vote on this sort of stuff.
It's not live again.
I know, it should be live.
No, sorry about that.
Yeah.
It's all preordained. You can't bet, you can't vote.
Bit like life, really.
Well, yeah, but life's not been recorded in advance. If you watch the show, you can see scenes from the final coming up. Anyway, we're not even halfway through it yet, Sean.
I can't wait for the end.
Are you going to keep watching it?
No.
Despite your Irish heritage?
Despite my potato heritage, yeah, I'm not going to carry on.
The other thing I like about the judges they bring in are when you see them sitting waiting to get the food, and they say, oh, we've got a celeriac puree here from Bobby. The main thing about that is it mustn't be gritty and granular. While the camera cuts to the kitchen showing you him spreading out a gritty, granular
celeriac puree.
The show itself, to go back to where we were at the start, is a great launch pad for people who want to do something worthwhile. It's not pointless. I mean, there's a guy on called Dean Edwards who was only second about 10 years ago, and he came on and said, I was driving a digger when I entered this competition, and now he's an author of cookbooks.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that, because as we were saying at the beginning, obviously, it is a talent show, and unlike X Factor, where, you sell your soul to Simon Cowell until he's tired of you.
It's a talent show for people with talent, though.
What, you saying X Factor isn't?
Well, take the singers in X Factor. If you went on X Factor and sung, subtly like Marvin Gaye, say, you'd get kicked off. Everyone who goes on X Factor screeches their head off, as if they think that's the only way to sing passionately. Now, it's the equivalent of everyone coming on to MasterChef and just serving up chips every single week. These people actually come along raw but with some innate talent
and some nuance,
and it gets developed, and nuance and skill gets developed.
Okay,
unlike other talent competitions.
You're talking me around a little bit now.
There's only another few weeks to go.
Yep,
there's 20 episodes and then it's the final.
How many in the final? Or are they just, we don't know, because they might let everyone through.
Like 10 through.
Everyone's a winner. It'd be like non-competitive sport, where you just say, well done, everyone.
It's getting a bit like that. After episode 20, there'll be a final week, which is usually another 3 or 4 episodes. It is one of the longest series you could possibly watch.
It sounds incredible.
Well, keep watching it then. I think it's people who like a bit of cooking but can't be bothered to really cook anything.
Yeah, exactly.
But probably have, an oven-based meal while they're watching it.
Well, having never cooked a ready meal myself, a bit like, was it Tim?
Tim, yeah.
I'll definitely be frying up some cauliflower steaks tonight, I think.
It is odd that you can imagine that people are actually eating ready meals while they watch it.
Yes.
So anyway, Sean, I guess you're not really going to watch it to the end.
I can't bet on it, Robin.
Treat it like the Super Bowl. Skip the long and pointless. Skip the long and pointless road, and on the night of the final, get a load of beers in, get your mates round.
Okay.
Get some big rubber hand things.
I will do that, except that I don't want that bit
Foam.
when the
Get
night
some big foam hand things. You know what I mean?
when the night ends and we have to get a cab for 60 quid home.
Yeah, you're all right, mate. It doesn't finish at 4 in the morning. It's no problem. It'll be all over
Get the
by
bus.
9 p.m. You can get the 337. And we don't want this podcast to go into 4 in the morning either.
No, we don't. So should we wrap it up?
We should wrap it up and see, should we say what we're doing next week?
Well, I think everyone is with us right to the end here.
Yeah, so next week we'll be looking at ITV Racing and the Cheltenham Festival.
Superb. Betting boots on?
Yeah, and probably a bit earlier because it starts on Tuesday.
Yeah, we need to do it earlier.
We'll try and get it to you by Wednesday,
Superb.
barring an outbreak of foot and mouth or equine flu.
Absolutely.
And that's it for this week, so we'll say goodbye.
And good night.